All right, get ready because this deep dive, we are going all the way to the Philippines
Oh, wow.
for a legal case that'll, it's going to make you rethink all those terms and conditions that you just scroll past. You know, we're
Yeah.
talking land sales gone wrong, decades of legal battles, and
Yeah.
a clock that just seems to stop for like almost a decade.
It's really a case study in just how complicated a simple transaction can become.
Yeah, so our guide for this deep dive is a fascinating Supreme Court case.
Okay.
The case number is GR No 100-594 if you want to look it up.
I'll check that out.
And it all starts back in 1967 with the Puente Vela family selling 42 lots to Binalbagan Tech, Inc.
Okay.
Just call them Binalbagan from now on for ease.
Makes sense.
Binalbagan builds a school, everyone's happy, or so you'd think.
And that's where things get interesting because you see every sale comes with this like kind of unspoken promise.
Oh, really?
The warranty of peaceful possession.
Okay, what does peaceful possession actually mean, like, for someone buying property?
Imagine you buy a piece of land, right? You wouldn't expect someone to show up a few years later and say, hey, this is mine, get out.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't be good.
So the warranty of peaceful possession basically ensures the buyer won't get evicted because of like some prior ownership dispute that they didn't know about.
Oh, okay.
It's basically the seller saying you're safe to build your life here.
So this whole case hinges on, like, a silent promise.
Essentially, yes.
So did someone mess up the contract or forget to, like, cross their T's and dot their I's or something?
No, the problem wasn't with the contract itself.
Oh.
It was a totally separate legal battle.
What?
Yeah, civil case no, 293, and this pops up in 1974,
Okay.
7 years after the sale.
Wow.
Turns out there were these prior claims on the land, and Binalbagan, the school, gets caught in the middle.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they get evicted and are forced to relocate their whole school.
Can you imagine just the chaos and the disruption?
It would have been a nightmare for everyone involved.
So they build this whole school, they invest in the community, and then boom, they're told to pack up and leave.
Yep.
That's exactly what happened.
That doesn't seem fair.
Well, that's what makes this case so interesting, you see, because the sellers couldn't ensure peaceful possession of the land for Binalbagan for almost a decade.
Right.
The clock on their claim for payment essentially stopped.
Wait, so the sellers can't demand payment because they haven't held up their end of the bargain, but they also get like a timeout because it was impossible to fulfill it.
Right.
That seems a little paradoxical.
It might sound counterintuitive, but it all comes down to fairness.
Okay.
There's this legal concept called prescription. It's basically a time limit for bringing a claim forward.
Okay.
This situation, though, created this, like, unique exception.
Interesting.
Think of it this way. You order something online.
Yeah.
The delivery is delayed because of, like, a storm or something. You wouldn't blame the seller, right?
No.
They still have to deliver it, and you still have to pay, but the clock is paused until that storm passes.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic here.
Good.
But we're still talking about years of disruption for a school. Yeah.
What happens when they finally get back on their feet? Does the story end there?
Not even close.
Okay, so the stage is set. We've got our sellers. They can deliver on that promise of peaceful possession.
Right.
And we've got Binalbagan saying time's up, no deal.
Exactly.
It all comes down to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
What did those legal masterminds decide?
You are going to love the sellers. The Supreme Court essentially hit the pause button on the legal clock.
Really?
Yeah, they ruled in favor of the sellers, and they said that the eviction period, those 8 years from 1974 to 1982, didn't count towards the statute of limitations.
Wait, are you saying they, like, bent the rules of time?
Well,
What's to stop people from just claiming unforeseen circumstances every time, like, a deadline rolls around?
it's not quite that simple. The court was very specific in their reasoning. They went back to that warranty against eviction that we talked about.
Right.
Remember, the sellers couldn't uphold that promise because of this whole other legal battle. It wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
They were legally obligated to provide that peaceful possession, but they were prevented from doing so.
Right.
So the clock stops ticking until they're back in control and are able to deliver on their end of the deal.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about Binalbagan? It still seems pretty rough that they have to pay after all that turmoil.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Did the court, like, not consider the impact on them at all?
Oh, they absolutely did. And that brings us to another interesting legal principle that the court considered unjust enrichment.
Unjust enrichment.
Yeah, so basically they said allowing Binalbagan to just keep the land without paying would be like getting a free lunch. And legally, that's not allowed.
So it's like, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly.
But this wasn't just any lunch. This was a school, a community disrupted for almost a decade. So how do you balance these, like, abstract legal principles with the very real human impact of the situation.
That is the million-dollar question, and it's something we all grapple with even outside the courtroom, right? How do we make sure that our decisions are legally sound, but also morally just?
Right.
I think this case is a really powerful illustration of that struggle, and it raises some important questions for all of us.
You know, you mentioned earlier that this case should make us rethink all those terms and conditions we just blindly click on.
Mm-hmm.
How does this whole legal saga apply to, like, my everyday life?
Think about it this way. You hire a contractor to, like, remodel your bathroom,
Okay.
and they hit a snag. Maybe they uncover some unexpected damage.
Right.
The project is delayed through no fault of their own.
Okay.
Should they still get paid for their work, even if it takes longer than planned?
Mm.
Or let's say you're lending money to a friend.
Yeah.
What happens if they lose their job and can't repay you on time? Do you just write off the debt, or do you give them more time because life threw them a curveball?
These are all situations that anyone could be in.
Exactly.
It's making me realize just how these, like, abstract legal principles really are woven into our everyday interactions.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of this case. It's not just some like dry legal textbook example.
Yeah.
It really shines a light on the human side of contracts, the messy reality of unforeseen circumstances, and that constant quest for fairness in a world that rarely goes according to plan.
Right. Okay, so we've really gone deep into this Philippine Supreme Court case.
Yeah.
Exploring legal concepts like peaceful possession and prescription and even unjust enrichment. It's like we got to peek behind the curtain of the legal system and see how all the gears turn.
It is. And what I think is so fascinating is that it's not just about understanding the legal terms,
Right.
but it's about how these principles actually play out in our own lives.
Right.
You don't have to be a lawyer to understand just how important fairness and balance are when agreements go wrong.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's making me think twice about all those everyday contracts.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as like borrowing a book from a friend.
Right.
What if they move across the country before I can give it back? Am I off the hook? Or is there like an unspoken statute of limitations on friendship?
You're hitting on a really great point.
Yeah.
This case really shows that while contracts provide like a framework,
Yeah.
there's always a human element.
Right.
We can't predict every curveball life throws our way.
Yeah.
And sometimes being flexible and having open communication is just as important as what's written in the legal document.
It's almost like this case is a reminder that while the law is all about like clarity and consistency,
Yeah.
real life is messy and unpredictable.
Totally.
It's full of gray areas.
It's a balancing act for sure.
It is. And finding that balance is key, right? Like
Yeah.
knowing your rights is important, but so is understanding the spirit of an agreement.
Absolutely.
Sometimes sticking to like the letter of the law,
Yeah.
might win you the case,
Right.
but lose you a friend or a business partner or even your reputation.
Yeah.
It's about the big picture.
It really is food for thought.
I think so.
This whole deep dive has been a roller coaster.
From a simple land sale to an eviction to legal time warps. And now this exploration of fairness and the human side of contracts.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah. So that is it for our deep dive into this Philippine legal saga.
Okay.
We unpacked all the legal jargon, explored the human side of things, and hopefully got you thinking a bit.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Remember, contracts are everywhere.
Right.
And understanding these principles can help you negotiate fairly.
Yeah.
And maybe even avoid some legal issues down the road.
Until next time, happy contracting.
Thanks for listening.